There are always more things you can do to an image. You can continue to enhance from now until the end of time. But eventually you got to call it a day. The last thing I'd like to do to this image is to add a vignette. Now, in olden times, the vignettes were very distinct and you knew exactly where they were. We want to add an invisible vignette, only it's not really invisible. The only invisible part is that you can't tell it's there. You can't look at a picture and say, hey, look, there's a vignette right there. You can see it. Well, you can't see it. Hey, look, there's a vignette right there in the layers panel, and you can see it. Now let's turn this off. Watch the image. Don't watch this little cursor. When I turn this off, look at the borders. You can see the boundaries down here pretty simply. And then you can look up in the sky and see the same thing. And let's go ahead and make that. You may notice that this corner of the mask is kind of globbed up, and that's because the vignette was a little strong up here, so I just painted over it. That's the beautiful thing about masks. So I'm going to make that layer active and delete it. As with everything, there are dozens of ways to add a vignette. I'm going to show you one of my favorites that's really easy. Adjustment layers. Window adjustments. I've got mine set right there. Let's go to curves. So a curves adjustment, and then just grab the center point right there. Just grab the center point and pull it straight down. Not, don't go crazy. Just pull it straight down a little bit. Okay, click that eyeball. Holy moly. Killing the image, isn't it? It's killing it. Just a little less right there. Doesn't matter. We can always adjust this later. Then we're going to select everything, but making sure the mask is active, right? See that? See the little lines around the mask? Command A selects everything. Now, I like to just click and drag, but I've watched students do it, and oh my goodness, you guys, can't you tell the difference? How to keep the same distance from the edge from one side to another? Here's a real easy trick. I'm going to pull up the rulers, Command R. If these aren't on pixels, you just right click on it and select pixels. And you want to say, hey, how far in do I want to go? Maybe about, 250 pixels, both sides. So I would click right there and drag down to that corner if I were making the selection with a rectangular marquee. But I'm going to show you, Command R, I'm going to show you a quick way to make this 250 pixels smaller. And again, it's under our friend, Select, Modify, this time contract, not expand. And you can add the amount of pixels you want to contract it by. Do select this because we are at the canvas bounds, and click OK. Now that is 250 pixels inside. You got it? And now we're on a mask and we have darkened everything, but we only want to darken the outside. So black conceals, white reveals. Let's fill this selection with black. Remember our shortcuts? Option Command, Option Delete for the foreground, Command Delete for the background. Option Delete fills that center area. I'm going to hit Command D, deselect. And now we have a vignette. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, I can see it. And it looks terrible. Yes, it does. Now, if we go back to the properties on the mask, we can do that manually, but I want to show you something because I go to the properties far more than I'm double-clicking a mask for another reason. If you double-click on this mask, you are going to get a dialog box that says, hey, you want to use it for properties or you want to use this for something else. And then in fine print, it's going to tell you in Photoshop Tools, you can reset this. So in Photoshop Tools, you can reset this. For right now, go ahead, double-click that mask and select Properties. If for some reason you're editing that mask because you already selected something different, just go to Window Properties and you got Properties pulled up. Grab this feather. Watch. Grab the feather and start dragging. Keep dragging until you get to a point where you can't see it anymore. You can kind of see it here. See the sky? It's getting too blue up here. And that's just the nature of that blue color and the mask. So let's just go ahead and say, okay, this number that I don't know what I had before, you do this by eye. There's no recipe. There's no magic number. And then I'm going to get the brush tool, by hitting the letter B or clicking on the brush tool. Click and hold. Make sure you get the brush tool, not one of those other things. And then I've got, notice the settings. The size, the hardness, no hardness. It's as soft as it can be. But I don't do brushes by this brush panel. And yeah, you can use the bracket keys in order to make the brush bigger and smaller. It's right next to the P. If I hit the, see how it's getting bigger? I'm hitting the right bracket, left bracket, makes it smaller. I don't do that. Hold down Control and Option. With Control and Option held down, click and hold your left mouse button. Drag down hardens the brush. Dragging up softens the brush. Dragging left makes it smaller. Dragging right makes it bigger. It doesn't get any easier than that. Let me hit the letter F to get out of that so I can move this around freely. And what I want to do is paint with a low opacity black. If you don't have black here, hit the letter D. And then because we're on a mask, Photoshop's going to say, hey, the default colors for the mask are white and black, not black and white. So we can hit X to exchange it, or just click that little guy there. I'm just going to hit X. And I want to paint with a low opacity. I've got mine set at 30%. And I want to paint everywhere. I just want to paint in this corner. I'm going to start right here. Click, hold, and drag. Now we can drag forever because we've got a low opacity brush. We're not doing anything else. We've done everything we can with that black. Then I'm going to click and drag again. And make sure I got all this. And I'm going to do it one more time. And you may notice over here in this mask, we're not painting black, we're painting gray. So this is a subtle change. Okay? And now, if I hit the letter F a couple times and get back Command 0, we're at full, not Command Open, Command 0. And we can see all our pixels. We've got our vignette. We've got our sharpening. And oh my goodness, look at the difference between this image right here and that image right there. Radical improvement, wouldn't you say? Now let's go ahead and quickly expand the canvas and improve our text and get this baby ready for print.